Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Techno like Beico MT93. If I pronounce that wrong, I apologize. As always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and all that stuff in this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available and has been since yesterday. And let's get started. So we're at 128 BPM. First sound we have here is this first lead, which sounds like this. So here's the notes for this one. It seems complicated, but it's actually meant to be very simple. We're in the key of D sharp minor here, and you can see like it's just notes from the D sharp minor scale pretty much. Like we got D sharp, the 9th, F, the minor 3rd, F sharp, the 5th, A sharp, G sharp, which is just 2 notes down from the 5th, another D sharp up there. There should be yeah, like it's just the sort of standard dark techno scale. It's not really that complicated. But then what makes this one cool is how it's playing off of the other lead. You can hear that kind of completes the notes for this one. But also, it's the way I've done this. It's very rhythmic, and it gives a lot of energy to the track. Like, if you have this lead versus one that's just kind of like dun 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 dun, that one is going to sound cool, but this one has a lot more energy to it. And it really, feels like peak time. Just because of that 16th note rhythm. For the sound on this one, I made it using wavetable. What we've got here is just one saw wave going into a low pass filter. And then I have this amp envelope here. This is also on the low pass. You can see in there. I have a little bit of phase sync unison. That's why I like using wavetable, because it has this really cool unison settings. So I've got that on there. And that is it for inside the synth. After that, I have a bit of resonator, actually. Here's without this. And then with it, so you can hear this just kind of fattens the synth up a little bit. It gives it kind of like a cool resonant thing. That's what it's doing. And yeah, I just have that kind of blended in there. You can see I've got it tuned to D sharp, and then it's just a D sharp minor chord, because we have +3, the minor 3rd, +7, the 5th, and then +19, which is just the 5th, an octave up. After that, I have a bit of chorus. Here's without this. And then with it, you can hear this just kind of spreads the sound out, makes it a bit fatter. Then we have a bit of echo doing dotted 8th notes, as well as a bit of reverb. These are both for the space of the sound and just kind of, making it not just dry like that. After that, we have a bit of EQ8. This is just kind of cutting out around here with this drum bus. If I turn this off, you can hear it. You can hear the drum bus tends to add some mud. It's very good for making the sound fat and strong, but it tends to add a little bit of mud or like bring out muddy things, sort of like putting a magnifying glass on them. So I'm just using this EQ8 to clean it up going into that so it doesn't have the muddy stuff to bring out. So yeah, then we got the drum bus. After that, I got the set like this. I like using the transients. It's a good way to kind of bring out the reverb and delay with a sound like this, because then it jumps up there in between the notes like you want, and gives it a lot more energy. After that, we have this limiter, and this is something that's a bit unorthodox. I don't usually do this, but it's a good way when you have a sound like this to just make it a bit fatter and a bit stronger. When I was putting this up against reference tracks, I was finding like when I turn this limiter off, it's kind of missing that one thing that it needs to make it sound really full and fat and as strong as other tracks, especially by Beico and MT93. So here's without this limiter, and then I'll turn it on. So you can hear what it does when it's on. It brings out the reverb and delay a lot, which in some cases would be bad, but with this it sounds good. But it also just kind of adds that extra bit of like oomph to the synth. So again, this is just one of those things where if it sounds good, it is good. Sometimes rules are meant to be broken. After that, we have this EQ8, which is just cutting out the line, as well as doing this kind of slight cut there for some of that muddy stuff. We've also got a mid-range boost and then a high-end boost for the brightness. And the last thing here is just this compressor. I have this side chaining to the kick. This kick is a rumble kick, but you can see I've got the side chain to the pre-effects thing there, so it's only being side chained to this. So yeah, next thing that we have here is a second lead, which sounds like this. So this one's very simple. It just plays D sharp, and then B, and then D sharp, and then B, and then A sharp. So it's just D sharp, and then A sharp is the fifth, B is just one note up from that. This is kind of like playing almost part of the same melody as the other synth. Like, I don't really feel like these are playing two different things. I feel like they're playing one thing together. And when I wrote these, I had actually written them both on this synth. And then I just took those notes and put them on a new synth. So that's kind of the technique there. For the sound on this one, this is also made using wavetable. What we have here is we have this saw wave here, and then I've got a square wave, an octave up from that. The square wave's turned down quite a bit. Those are going into a low pass filter. The low pass has an envelope on it. This is also the amp envelope. You can see there. And then I've got this unison here. I used the noise setting for this one. The noise unison is very cool. It gives it like this very crunchy, kind of crispy texture. After that, I have a bit of chorus to spread the sound out, make it a bit bigger. Then we have this echo doing 16th notes, pretty simple stuff there. I did a bit of a faster one than the other lead since this just kind of plays this one note. Then we've got some reverb, you can see it's set like that. After that, I have a bit of saturation. This is only doing like one particular thing. I'll show you, here's without it, and then with it. So you can see I've got this bass frequency turned up a bunch. It's just giving it that really like crunchy, like squash kind of distortion where you can hear it's like, you can hear it just has that extra little bit of like taking it over the edge there. After that, we have this drum bus. This is really fattening the sound up. Here's without it. So this is how you get like the big fat techno super saws. Is you make a regular super saw like we've got, and then put it through stuff like this that just makes it super full and saturated and warm sounding. After that, we have this EQ8. I've got this just cutting out some low end as well as doing a bit of a high end boost, and then it's cutting out a little bit of mud there. And the last thing here is just a compressor side chaining it to the kick. I had the leads in a group. All that's on there is actually just this one EQ. They just needed a little bit more brightness. Here's without the EQ. And then with it. So you can hear it just kind of brings the sounds out a little bit more. Pretty simple stuff. That is it for the leads. The next thing we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So this is a rumble kick. We got the kick, and then it's going through this rumble here. So what we got going on here, like I said, just this drag kick sample. It's going into a bit of saturated. You guys know I like to use this before the rumble to just kind of give it a bit more oomph, and it makes the rumble hit a bit harder. Then we have the rumble rack. So we have a dry chain and a wet chain. On the wet chain, we have a reverb set like this. The key with this one was actually turning the size down. Usually I don't touch it, but I'll show you the difference. Here's with the size of the default setting, and then with it how I set it. So you can actually get some kind of nice different types of rumble if you play around with that. But yeah, after that, we just have a bit of this amp here. You can hear that's what that sounds like. It just takes the reverb, distorts it, gives it that low end. Then we have this low pass filter cutting out the high end and just focusing it in on the low end. And then we have a compressor side chaining this to the dry kick. It's just like I was saying with the leads. It's just side chained to the kick before the rumble. And then we have this EQ8 here, which is just cutting at 100 hertz and giving us a bit of a low end boost just to kind of fit it around the dry kick. So I'll close this rack. After that, we just have this EQ here. This is just kind of similar to what I did with the lead. It's just kind of cutting some mud going into the drum bus so that it doesn't have even more when you turn on the drum bus. Then we have the drum bus here. I'll show you here's without this. And then with it. So obviously this makes it a lot stronger, but this is like really helpful for gluing the rumble to the kick. It makes it so it sounds like one thing and not just like two separate things. After that, we have this EQ8. This is just doing a bit of a low end boost as well as a low mid range cut to cut out some muddiness. And that is it for the kick. The next layer we have here is the second kick, which sounds like this. So this is something that's done a lot in techno. I hear this a lot in Beico and MT93 tracks, so I figured I'd use this video to show it to you guys. But basically what this is it's just the kick sample, the same one that I was showing you a second ago. And then I've just got to go into a band pass. So it's just like super deep and dark sounding. And then it just plays this extra notes there. So this is kind of one of those things like when you have the part in your track where it's just... and the hi-hats come in like that. This is what that's for. It just kind of gives it something a little bit more interesting. and makes it not just like just the kick going doom 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 over and over again. So yeah, got a bandpass on that, got a bit of drum bus, and then I had this EQ8 just to cut out some line because it was clashing a little bit with the other kick. And yeah, and then I had those in a group together, and I've just got a bit of EQ, cutting out some mud, doing a bit of a low end boost, and then I've got a saturator on there just to give them a little bit of extra punch. This is kind of like that limiter on the lead. It's like that last little bit that takes it over the edge. I'll show you. Here's without this. And then with it. So yeah, the next thing that we have here is the first hi-hat, which sounds like this. So this is just a simple hi-hat sample. The main thing with this is just like the type of hi-hat you choose. Like if you listen, this one is a lot brighter and bigger sounding than the one that I'm showing you, which is just playing 16th notes. It's like you need to just be able to choose the right samples. You don't want to have the really big one playing 16th notes and then have the smaller one playing on the upbeats. You really want to be able to, hear the space between those, even with everything playing. After that, we have the second hi-hat. Again, just like sort of a big, nice, full hi-hat sample. You can hear this one really fits in a specific place. Like what I'm trying to do here is focus these. So this one is the lowest one. And then this one comes up on top of it, and then the ride is like the high end. So yeah, that's where this sits. Then we have the ride. Sounds like this. This is just a ride cymbal. You can see I've got a bit of echo on this. This is to give it a wider stereo image. Typically in techno, when you have a ride like this, you want it to be a bit wider sitting on top of the other hi-hats. So I've got this just set like this. We've got these at 2 separate times, and this is what makes it really wide. If I turn this off and then turn it on again, you can hear that's what's spreading it out without making it sound too obviously like some delay. After that, I just have an EQ8 that's giving it a bit of a high-end boost. And yeah, and then I have those drums or percussion, whatever you want to call it, hi-hats, in a group. You can see we got a bit of group processing. So here is with nothing. And then with everything. So you can hear it really helps to just give everything that extra little bit of punch. Like with your hi-hats, you really don't want them to be too soft. You want them to really have that, like, you want the punch to match with the kick. You want it to be like, not doots. So that's what the drum bus does. It just helps to kind of give them a more even fat texture. And then we just have the EQ8, which is cutting out the low end, as well as doing a little bit of a high end boost. Just kind of focusing the sound and cleaning it up a little bit. And yeah, so that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video, as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets from this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there. It's already available. Thank you so much, guys. And I will see you tomorrow with another video.